Welcome to Growinx Kids. Like, share, subscribe for fun and learning.
Cinderella was sitting near the fireplace, scrubbing the floor. Her hands and face were covered in dirt. Her stepsisters, Drizella and Anastasia, were sitting on soft cushions, eating sweets, and talking about the royal ball. Drizella threw a silk scarf on the floor and said in a harsh voice, "Cinderella, bring me my blue dress right now, and be quick." Anastasia laughed and said, "And bring me my red necklace too. If you are late, we will leave you with the mice." Cinderella sadly brought the dress and necklace. As she handed the dress to Drizella, Drizella spilled juice on it on purpose. "You silly girl! Clean it at once!" Drizella shouted angrily. Anastasia smiled and threw her shoes at Cinderella. "Polish them! And don't even dream of going to the royal ball." Then, Drizella and Anastasia left for the royal palace. Drizella ordered, "Clean the whole house and shine all the floors before we come back." Cinderella slowly started cleaning the house. She said to herself, "I am so unlucky that I cannot go to the royal ball." She looked out of the window sadly, and a tear rolled down her cheek. Suddenly, a soft light spread behind her. "Why are you sad, my dear child?" a sweet voice spoke. Cinderella turned around and saw a glowing fairy holding a magic wand. The fairy smiled and waved her wand. Cinderella's old, torn clothes changed into a beautiful, sparkling silver dress. "Now you will go to the ball," said the fairy. Then, she turned a big pumpkin into a golden carriage, and the mice became beautiful white horses. "But remember, this magic will end at midnight," warned the fairy. Cinderella nodded excitedly but nervously and sat in the carriage. When Cinderella reached the palace, she said in amazement, "This palace is so beautiful." She entered the royal hall, and as soon as the prince saw her, he was enchanted by her beauty. The prince smiled, walked up to her, and gently asked, "Will you dance with me?" Cinderella shyly nodded, and they started dancing under the grand chandeliers. Drizella and Anastasia watched in shock and anger, but they did not recognize Cinderella. The prince was very happy with Cinderella, and they were enjoying their dance when suddenly the clock struck 11:30. Cinderella, lost in joy, was startled by the sound of the clock. "I must go," she said in panic and quickly ran out of the palace. The prince ran after her in surprise, but Cinderella rushed down the stairs and out of sight. As she ran, one of her glass slippers slipped off her foot and fell on the steps. But she didn't stop to pick it up. The prince saw the slipper, but by then, Cinderella had already disappeared in her carriage. The next morning, the royal servants searched the whole city with the prince. Everyone was excited to see the prince. The servants tried the glass slipper on every girl in the kingdom. Drizella pushed her foot in, but it didn't fit. Anastasia also tried, but she failed too. Cinderella stood quietly in the background, watching everything. At last, she stepped forward and softly said, "May I try the shoe?" The prince looked at her in surprise and allowed her to try. As soon as Cinderella put on the shoe, it fit perfectly. The whole city gasped in amazement. At that moment, the fairy's magic appeared again, and Cinderella's dress turned back into her sparkling gown. She looked like a real princess. The prince was overjoyed. Cinderella smiled as she looked at the prince. The prince held her hand and said, "I have found my princess." Drizella and Anastasia angrily argued with each other, but it was too late. The prince took Cinderella to his palace, and they had a grand wedding. And so, Cinderella escaped her mean stepsisters and began a new happy life with the prince.